Dad, we need to talk. Those 4 words. In my 72 years on this earth, I'd learned that nothing good ever followed those 4 words. I looked up from the 1967 Mustang engine I was rebuilding in my garage, my sanctuary for the past 40 years, and saw my son Marcus standing in the doorway, backlit by the afternoon sun. He wasn't alone. His wife, Vanessa, stood beside him, her arms crossed, her expression that particular mixture of impatience and disgust I'd come to recognize over the past 5 years since Marcus married her. And behind them, looking uncomfortable in his cheap suit, was a man I didn't recognize, holding a briefcase. "Marcus," I said, wiping my hands on a rag, "what's this about? Can we go inside? This is important." His voice had that edge to it, the tone he used when he'd already made up his mind about something and was just going through the motions of pretending to consult me. I set down my tools carefully. This Mustang belonged to old Jimmy Chen down the street, and I'd promised to have it running by next week. Jimmy and I had served in Vietnam together, back when the world was different, back when a man's word meant something. "All right," I said, "let's go inside." We walked through my garage, past the shelves lined with carefully organized tools, past the wall of framed photographs. Me and Marcus's mother on our wedding day, Marcus as a baby, his first day of school, his college graduation. The last photo was from 10 years ago before Janet died, before everything changed. Inside the house, the kitchen still smelled faintly of the morning's coffee. I'd lived in this house for 43 years. Bought it when Marcus was just 2 years old, worked 2 jobs to make the mortgage payments, raised my son here, held my wife's hand here as she took her last breath. "Sit down, Dad." Vanessa gestured to the kitchen table like she owned the place. I sat. They remained standing, arrayed around me like prosecutors. The stranger with the briefcase stood near the counter, trying to look sympathetic and professional at the same time. "Dad," Marcus began, and I heard him take a breath, preparing for whatever speech he'd rehearsed. "We're worried about you. You're 72 years old, you're living alone in this big house, spending all day in that garage with cars and machinery. It's not safe." "I'm fine, Marcus." "You're not fine," Vanessa interjected. "Last month you fell off that ladder in the garage. You could have broken your neck." I slipped. "It happens." "It happens because you're getting old, Dad." Marcus leaned forward, his hands on the table. "You can't keep living like you're 40. This house is too much for you. The garage is dangerous, and you're isolated out here." I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become this person? This man in his expensive suit, with his real estate agent wife, speaking to me like I was a child who couldn't make his own decisions. "What are you saying, Marcus?" The stranger cleared his throat. Marcus gestured to him. "Dad, this is Robert Carlson. He's from Meadowbrook Senior Living Community. It's a wonderful facility, top-rated, great amenities." "A nursing home." The words tasted like ash in my mouth. "An assisted living community," Robert Carlson corrected, his voice smooth and practiced. "We provide independence with support, social activities, medical care on site." "I don't need medical care. I don't need social activities. I have my home." "Dad, please." Marcus pulled out a chair and sat across from me. "We've already made the arrangements. There's a room available tomorrow. It's a nice room, south-facing, view of the garden. You'll love it." "Tomorrow?" I felt something cold settle in my chest. "You're telling me about this today, and I'm supposed to move tomorrow." "We wanted to move quickly," Vanessa said. "Strike while the iron is hot, so to speak. We've already started the paperwork to list the house. The market is excellent right now, and this property, with the large lot and the garage, it's very desirable. We're expecting multiple offers." There it was, the truth finally laid bare. This wasn't about my safety or my well-being. This was about the house, about the property, about money. "You're selling my house." My voice came out flat, emotionless, though inside I felt something beginning to burn. "We're selling your house, Dad, to pay for your care," Marcus said, and I could hear the defensiveness creeping into his tone. "Meadowbrook isn't cheap, but you'll be safe there. You'll have people around, medical staff if you need them." "I don't need them." "Dad, you're 72 years old. You live alone. You spend all day working on cars like you're still running a business. It's time to let go. It's time to relax, enjoy your golden years." I looked at him for a long moment. "And the garage?" Marcus and Vanessa exchanged a glance. "Well, obviously you won't be able to keep the garage, but Dad, you don't need it anymore. You're retired. Those cars, that equipment, it's all just stuff weighing you down. We'll sell what we can, donate the rest." "Those cars aren't stuff, Marcus. Each one has a story. That '67 Mustang I'm working on, that belongs to Jimmy Chen. We served together in Vietnam. He saved my life in Da Nang, pulled me out of a burning APC when I took shrapnel. I told him I'd fix his car, and a man keeps his word." "Dad, that's very sentimental, but—" "Sentimental." I felt my voice rise for the first time. "That Corvette in the corner, I bought that the year you were born, paid for it with overtime shifts at the factory. Your mother and I used to take you for drives in it when you were a baby. You'd fall asleep in her arms while we drove down the coast." Marcus looked uncomfortable. "I don't remember that." "No, you wouldn't. You were too young, but I remember. I remember everything about those days, Marcus, every moment." Vanessa's voice was sharp. "That's exactly the problem. You're living in the past. You need to move forward, accept reality." "No." The word came out harder than I'd intended. Marcus blinked. "Dad." I said no. I stood up. "This is my house, my garage, my life, and I'm not going anywhere." "Dad, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. You're the one trying to put me in a home and sell my property without my consent." "Actually," Robert Carlson interjected, and I saw him exchange a glance with Vanessa, "we should discuss the power of attorney." My blood went cold. What power of attorney? Vanessa pulled a document from her purse. "Marcus is your only living relative. Given your age and recent incidents, the fall, the time last year when you were hospitalized for pneumonia, we thought it was prudent to have legal authority to make decisions for your welfare." I never signed any power of attorney. "No," Marcus said quietly. "But we had Dr. Morrison write a letter stating concerns about your judgment and ability to live independently. And with that, we were able to get a temporary guardianship order. For your own protection, Dad." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Dr. Morrison, the young doctor who'd taken over the practice when old Doc Stevens retired, the one who'd barely looked at me during my last checkup, typing on his computer the whole time. "You went behind my back." "We did what we had to do." Vanessa's voice was sharp. "You're a stubborn old man and you won't listen to reason. This is for your own good." "My own good, or your own good?" I stared at her, then at Marcus. "When did this start? When did you two start planning this?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, it's not like that." "Then what is it like? Tell me, Marcus. When did you decide your father was too much trouble? Was it after I fell off that ladder? Or was it earlier? Maybe when your mother died and I became inconvenient?" "That's not fair," Marcus's voice rose. "I came to see you, I called, but you always said you were fine, you didn't need anything." "Because I was fine, I am fine. Did you ever think that maybe I meant it? That maybe your old man wasn't just putting on a brave face?" Victor, Marcus had called me Victor, not Dad. That stung more than I wanted to admit. "You're 72 years old. You had pneumonia last year. You fell. You live alone in this big house." "I've lived in this house for 43 years. Your mother and I raised you here. She died here in our bedroom holding my hand. You want me to just abandon that? Abandon her memory?" The room went quiet. I saw something flicker across Marcus's face, guilt maybe, or pain. But Vanessa stepped forward, her voice cold. "Ms., Lawson died 10 years ago. At some point, you have to let go and face reality. The reality is that you're elderly, you're alone, and you need care. Marcus and I have our own lives. We have responsibilities. We can't be driving out here every time you need something, worrying that you've fallen or had a heart attack and there's no one to find you for days. I never asked you to worry. I never asked for anything. Exactly, Vanessa threw up her hands. You never ask. You're too proud, too stubborn. Well, pride doesn't keep you safe. Pride doesn't pay medical bills. Pride doesn't prevent you from dying alone in this house surrounded by your precious cars. Vanessa, Marcus started, but she waved him off. Vanessa, Marcus started, but she waved him off. No, Marcus, he needs to hear this. Your father is living in the past, surrounded by junk and memories. He's alone, he's aging, and he's too proud to admit he needs help. We're doing him a favor. And frankly, she gestured around the kitchen, this house is worth close to $1 million in this market. That's your inheritance, Marcus. Our children's college fund. We can't just let it sit here while he plays mechanic in his garage until he has a heart attack or breaks his hip. I felt something break inside me. Not my spirit, that was still intact, burning hotter than ever, but the last thread of hope that my son still saw me as a person, not just an obstacle or an asset to be managed. Children's college fund, I repeated softly. That's what this is about, money. It's not just about money, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? You show up here with a lawyer from a nursing home, papers already drawn up, a plan already in place to sell my house and liquidate my junk. You didn't come here to help me, Marcus. You came here to process me, to file me away so you could move on with your life without the inconvenience of an aging father. The room went silent. Even Robert Carlson looked uncomfortable. I looked at my son. Is that what you think, Marcus? That I'm just a stubborn old man playing with cars, sitting on your inheritance? He couldn't meet my eyes. Dad, I just want what's best for you. No, I said quietly, you want what's best for you. I walked to the counter, to the drawer where I kept important papers. My hands were steady as I pulled out a manila folder, worn at the edges, that I'd been keeping updated for years. Just in case this day came. Your mother knew this might happen, you know, I said, setting the folder on the table. Not this exactly, but something like it. Before she died, she made me promise I'd protect myself, protect what we'd built. She said, Victor, you're too trusting. You think everyone has good intentions. Make sure you're prepared. I opened the folder slowly, letting them see the thickness of it, the organization, the careful documentation. I didn't want to believe her. You're my son, Marcus. I raised you to be better than this. But your mother was wiser than me. She always was. Before you pack me off to Meadowbrook, I said, setting the folder on the table, there are some things you should know about your old man who plays with cars in his garage. I opened the folder and pulled out the first document. This, I said, sliding it across to Marcus, is the deed to this house. You'll notice that it's in my name only. Your mother and I bought it together, but when she passed, it became solely mine. You have no legal claim to it. We know that, Dad. That's why we need to sell it to pay for your care. Let me finish. I pulled out another document. This is a letter from my attorney dated last week. It states that I am of sound mind and body, fully capable of managing my own affairs, and that any attempt to claim otherwise would be challenged in court. I had it notarized. I also had a full cognitive assessment done by an independent neurologist, not Dr. Morrison. The results are attached. I scored in the top percentile for my age group. I saw Marcus pale slightly. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Your temporary guardianship order. It was based on fraudulent information. Dr. Morrison never examined me for competency. He never had grounds to write that letter. And when my attorney contacts the court tomorrow with this evidence, your guardianship will be dissolved, along with any legal authority you think you have. Dad, wait. I'm not finished. I pulled out a thick stack of papers. Now let's talk about my garage, the one you think is full of junk, the one you want to clean out and sell off. I spread the papers across the table. These are titles, car titles, for every vehicle I've restored over the past 40 years. Classic cars, rare models, vehicles that collectors pay premium prices for. I pointed to the first one. 1967 Shelby GT 500, fully restored. Current market value, approximately $200,000. I bought it for $1,500 in 1985. I saw Marcus's eyes widen. 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda, orange, numbers matching, value $500,000. I've had it for 30 years. Another document. 1969 Dodge Charger, documented history, worth about $300,000. I kept going, laying out title after title, appraisal after appraisal. 1957 Corvette, 1963 split-window Corvette, 1969 Camaro Z28, 1970 Chevelle SS 454, 1968 Mustang GT Fastback, the one Steve McQueen made famous in Bullet. I reached into the folder and pulled out photographs. Here, since you've never actually looked at what's in my garage, let me show you. I laid out the photos one by one, professional shots taken for insurance and appraisal purposes. Each car gleaming, restored to perfection, worth more than most people's houses. This orange Cuda, I found it in a barn in Indiana, covered in hay, mice living in the seats. Took me 4 years to restore it. Every part authenticated, every detail perfect. A museum in Detroit offered me $600,000 for it last month. I said no. Another photo. This Charger, it's the same model as the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard, but this one's all original. I've had collectors from Japan offer me cash, sight unseen. I said no to them too. Marcus picked up one of the photos, his hands shaking slightly. Dad, I had no idea. Of course you didn't, you never asked. You saw a dirty old man playing with cars and assumed I was wasting my time, reliving past glories, but I wasn't playing, Marcus. I was working. I was building something, just like I always have. The table was covered in papers. Marcus was staring, his mouth slightly open. Vanessa had gone very quiet. In total, I said, pulling out a final document, a comprehensive appraisal from a nationally recognized classic car auction house. My collection is worth approximately $4.2 million. The silence in the room was absolute. Marcus couldn't finish the sentence. Million, I confirmed. Give or take, depending on the market. Some cars I've already sold. The money is in investment accounts and trusts that you, Marcus, are the beneficiary of upon my death. But right now, while I'm alive, it's mine. I pulled out another set of papers. And this garage you want to clean out, it's not just a garage. For the past 15 years, I've been running a restoration business. Small, selective, only taking on clients I trust. But it's legitimate, licensed, and profitable. I restore classic cars for collectors, museums, and enthusiasts. Last year alone, I netted about $300,000. I let that sink in. I'm not playing with cars, Marcus. I'm running a business, a successful one. Those friends I work on cars for, they're clients. Jimmy Chen's Mustang, he's paying me $15,000 for that restoration. The Porsche in the back bay, that belongs to a collector in Beverly Hills. He's paying $40,000. Vanessa had sat down, her face pale. So, I continued, when you talk about selling my property to pay for Meadowbrook, which, by the way, costs about $6,000 a month, a number I looked up myself, you're talking about taking a multi-million-dollar asset and liquidating it to pay for something I don't need and didn't ask for. I turned to Robert Carlson. I appreciate you coming out here, Mr. Carlson, but I won't be needing your facility. Please leave. He didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed his briefcase and was out the door in seconds. I looked back at my son. Marcus, I don't know when I became a burden to you, when I became an inconvenient old man standing in the way of your inheritance. But let me be clear, I am not incompetent. I am not senile. I am not in need of assisted living. I am a 72-year-old man running a successful business, living in my own home, taking care of myself just fine. Dad, I didn't know, Marcus started, but I held up a hand. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You didn't visit. You didn't call except on holidays. When's the last time you came to see me, Marcus? Really came to see me, not just to check on the house or make sure I was still alive. He couldn't answer. Your mother died 10 years ago, and for the first year you visited every week. Then it was every month. Then every few months. For the past 2 years, I can count on one hand the number of times you've been here. You don't know anything about my life, my work, or what I do with my days. You just assumed I was a lonely old man waiting to die. That's not fair, Vanessa started, but I cut her off with a look. You, I said to her, have never liked me. You made that clear from the day you married my son. You think I'm beneath you with my working-class background and my dirty hands. You look at this house and see money. You look at me and see an obstacle. Well, let me tell you something. I built my life with these hands. I served my country. I raised a good son, or at least I thought I did, and I made something of myself without stepping on anyone else. Can you say the same? She stood up abruptly, grabbing her purse. I don't have to listen to this. Marcus, are you coming? Marcus looked torn, staring at the papers spread across the table, at the evidence of a life he knew nothing about. I need to talk to my father, he said quietly. Vanessa's face flushed with anger. Fine, when you're done, I'll be in the car. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. For a long moment, Marcus and I just looked at each other across the kitchen table. He looked older than his 45 years suddenly, tired and confused. Dad, he said finally, I really didn't know. About the cars, the business, any of it. I know. But why didn't you tell me? I sighed, sitting back down. Would you have listened? When's the last time we had a real conversation, Marcus? When's the last time you asked about my life? He was quiet. After your mother died, I continued, I needed something, a purpose. I couldn't just sit around waiting to die. So I turned what I loved, working on cars, into something more. I built a reputation, took on clients, made something of myself all over again. I was going to tell you eventually, include you in it maybe, but I was too busy with my own life. You were, and that's fine, Marcus. You're an adult with your own life, your own family. I don't expect you to take care of me, but I also don't expect you to treat me like I'm helpless. He rubbed his face with both hands. God, Dad, I'm so sorry. Vanessa, she kept saying. She made it sound like you were in danger, like we were doing the right thing. Vanessa wants this house. She's always wanted this house, and she saw an opportunity. I should have questioned it more. I should have come to see you, talk to you, not just ambushed you like this. He looked at me and I saw genuine remorse in his eyes. Can you forgive me? I thought about it. Thought about my son, the boy I'd raised, the man he'd become. Thought about the choices we all make, the ways we disappoint each other, the ways we find our way back. Yes, I said. But things need to change, Marcus. I'm not going to live forever, but while I'm here, I want to be treated with respect. I want to be part of your life again, and I want you to be part of mine. I'd like that, he said softly. I'd really like that. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus looked at the papers again. Dad, can I ask, what are you planning to do with all of this? I gathered up the documents, putting them back in the folder. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, working on cars, taking on projects I enjoy, living my life. And when I'm gone, it all goes to you. The house, the cars, the business if you want it, the money, all of it. But not today, not tomorrow, when I'm gone, and not a day sooner. Marcus nodded. That's fair, that's more than fair. He paused. Could I maybe come by sometime, see the collection, learn about what you do? I felt something warm spread through my chest. I'd like that, son. I'd like that a lot. The garage was more crowded than usual. It was a Saturday afternoon, and the bay doors were open to let in the autumn breeze. Jimmy Chen's Mustang was finished, purring like a kitten, ready for pickup on Monday. In the second bay, the Beverly Hills Porsche was coming along nicely. But today wasn't about work. Today was about family. Marcus was under the hood of a 1969 Camaro we'd bought together at an auction last month, his first restoration project. He was learning, slowly, the difference between rushing and taking your time, between good enough and perfect. And on a blanket on the garage floor, surrounded by soft tools and fuzzy dice that wouldn't hurt if thrown, was my grandson, 8-month-old grandson, whom I'd met for the first time 2 months ago. His name was Victor, after me. "Dad, is this distributor cap supposed to have this crack?" Marcus called from under the hood. I walked over, wiping my hands. "That's why we're replacing it. Here, let me show you the difference between a crack and normal wear." As I taught my son the same way my father had taught me, the same way generations of men in my family had passed down knowledge, I heard a car pull up in the driveway. Vanessa got out carrying grocery bags. She didn't slam the car door this time. Over the past few months, we'd reached a détente. She'd never love me and I'd never be her favorite person, but she'd learned to respect what I'd built. And when she saw how much Marcus needed this connection to his father, this link to his past, she'd soften just a little. "Lunch is here," she called. "Victor's getting hungry too." Marcus straightened up, grease on his hands, a smile on his face. "Coming. Dad, should we break for lunch?" I looked around my garage, my sanctuary, my livelihood, my legacy. I looked at my son, learning the craft. At my grandson, who would grow up knowing his grandfather not as a burden or an inconvenience, but as a man who built things, who worked with his hands, who had value and purpose. "Yeah," I said, "let's break for lunch." As we walked toward the house together, 3 generations of Lawson men, I thought about that day 3 months ago, when Marcus had stood in my doorway and told me I was moving to a nursing home. I thought about the folder of documents that had saved me, not just from Meadowbrook, but from being erased, from being reduced to nothing more than an inconvenient old man. But mostly, I thought about what I'd learned, that you could never assume someone knew your worth. Sometimes you had to show them. Sometimes you had to fight for your own dignity, your own space, your own right to live your life on your own terms. And sometimes, if you were lucky, fighting back didn't destroy a relationship. Sometimes it saved one. The auction house was packed. Christie's had promoted it heavily, the Victor Lawson collection, a lifetime of American muscle. The catalog was beautiful, professional photographs of each car, my story told in the introduction. I stood in the back with Marcus, watching as collectors and museums bid on my cars. Not all of them, I was keeping a few, the ones with the most meaning, but enough to fund the next chapter. Sold. 1967 Shelby GT 500, $260,000. The crowd applauded. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. "You sure about this, Dad?" I nodded. "I'm sure it's time." The truth was, I was tired. Not sick, not dying, but tired in the way that 73 years of living makes you tired. My hands weren't as steady as they used to be. My back hurt more often. And I'd realized something important. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. The auction money would go into trusts for my grandson and any future grandchildren. It would fund college educations, first homes, businesses. It would be my legacy, transformed from steel and chrome into opportunity. But I wasn't giving up the garage. Not yet. I'd just be more selective, taking on 1 or 2 projects a year, teaching Marcus, building something new. Next up, Lot 17, 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda, numbers matching in Tor red. I closed my eyes and listened to the bidding war. $500,000 for a car I'd bought for $3,000. Not bad for a stubborn old man playing with cars in his garage. I'm writing this from my office in the garage. Through the window, I can see Marcus and Victor, who's 5 now, working on a 1965 Ford Mustang. It's Victor's car, the one he'll get when he turns 16. They don't know I'm watching and I don't interrupt. This is their time, their bond. The house is quiet. I still live here, still independent, still on my own terms. I'm 78 now, and yes, things are harder than they used to be, but I wake up every morning with purpose. I have projects. I have family. I have a life. Dr. Morrison retired last year. Turns out he was writing those competency concern letters for a lot of elderly patients, working with Meadowbrook and other facilities for kickbacks. He lost his license. I testified at the hearing. Meadowbrook's senior living community closed down 2 years ago. Turns out they had dozens of complaints about conditions, about pushing families to liquidate assets unnecessarily, about prioritizing profits over care. Robert Carlson is facing fraud charges. And me, I'm still here, still working, still living, still proving that age is just a number and value isn't determined by how old you are, but by what you contribute, what you build, what you leave behind. My son knows that now. My grandson will grow up knowing it. And that folder of documents, the one that saved my life, my home, my dignity, sits in a drawer in my office, a reminder of the day I had to fight for the right to be myself. I hope I never need it again, but it's there just in case, because I learned something important that day. Hope for the best, but always, always be prepared. And never, ever let anyone tell you that you're too old to matter. The garage door opens. Marcus calls out, "Dad, Victor wants to show you something." I close this journal, put it away, and head out to see what my grandson has discovered. There's a crack in the engine block, probably, or a stuck bolt that needs wisdom more than strength to remove. These are the moments that matter. Not the money from the auction, not the victory over Meadowbrook, not even the justice served. This family, legacy, purpose. I'm 78 years old, and I've never been more alive. And I'm not going anywhere. And that brings us to the end of Victor Lawson's story, a tale of dignity, preparation, and the hidden value in what others dismiss as just stuff. His journey reminds us that age doesn't diminish worth, and sometimes the people who underestimate us need to be reminded, firmly and clearly, who we really are. Victor's story raises important questions. At what point does concern for elderly parents cross the line into control? How do we balance independence with safety? And what responsibilities do we have to truly know and understand the people we love before making decisions for them? What would you have done in Victor's position? Would you have fought back or handled it differently? And if you were Marcus, how would you ensure you never lost sight of your parents' humanity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe to support more stories like this. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect is earned through understanding, and everyone deserves to live with dignity, regardless of age.